The scripture this morning is from the book of Matthew, chapter 22, verses 15 through 22. Then the Pharisees went and plotted to entrap him in what he said. So they sent their disciples to him along with the Herodians, saying, "Teacher, we know that you are sincere and teach the way of God in accordance with truth and show deference to no one, for you do not regard people with partiality. Tell us then what you think. Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not?" But Jesus, aware of their malice, said, "Why are you putting me to the test, you hypocrites? Show me the coin used for the tax." And they brought him a denarius. Then he said to them, "Whose head is this, and whose title?" They answered, "The emperor's." Then he said to them, "Give therefore to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's." And when they heard this, they were amazed, and they left him and went away. The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Thank you, Sue. You know, that is the nicest I've ever heard someone call you hypocrites ever. Well, good morning, my friends. My name is Jason Yankee, one of the pastors here at People's Church, and it is so good to see all of you here on this beautiful morning. And just a reminder, in your bulletins, you have these green sheets. They're the growth sheets. They have questions that you can reflect on after the message. Also prayers you can use. And then, as you'll find out about in our announcements, we have a new app here at the church where you're actually able to, if you want to make notes during the message, you just open up our app and there it is. Hey, we're all fancy and stuff. So today we're continuing our sermon series called Christ in Crisis, and we're considering what's called the Caesar question. In other words, what is our relationship to the government as Christians and people of faith? So that's fun. We get to talk about religion and politics all of the same Sunday morning, just those things that everybody likes to talk about. There was a pastor standing in the narthex of a large downtown church, getting ready for his turn to be a part of the processional. And he noticed that the children were taking bags, much like our worship busy bags that our kids can grab to take into worship. And he'd never seen these before, so he asked about them, and it was told that the bags contained some crayons, a Bible story coloring book, perhaps a piece of candy or two. And the host pastor said jokingly to the visiting preacher, "You know, the bags are what really keeps them occupied during the message." The visiting preacher noticed large letters on the outside of the bag, and they read, "Worshiper in training." Now, I really like that. I don't know about you. In my last congregation as a part of Sunday school, the kids would come up to the sanctuary about once or twice a year to have a conversation with me. And we talked about what we did in worship. We talked about the prayers that we said together. Sometimes I'd have grape juice and bread. We talked about communion, or I'd have the baptismal font full of water, and they played the water, and we talked about baptism. I explained the different rituals we used in worship and answered the questions they had about them. Now that's harder for us to do here at People's Church because, well, our kids are in Sunday school during most of worship. But one of the reasons we started saying the Lord's Prayer during children's time is A, so the kids get to know it, and B, so the kids get to experience it as a part of worship. If kids don't experience these things, when they grow older, worship seems completely foreign to them. Of course, Most of us here today are here as adults. Most of us have been at this matter of Christian worship for most of our lives. We don't need an activity bag, do we? Well, okay, maybe we do. But we don't need training in worship. Or do we? Psalm 24 reads, "The earth is the Lord's and all that is in it, the world and those who live in it." This verse from Psalm 24 is a statement of ownership. The claim of divine ownership is a consistent theme throughout Scripture. The earth is the Lord's. God creates and owns it all. Whatever we have, including life itself, is on loan to us from God. This Christian life is one long process of learning that we really don't have anything of value. And any time we use the word mine, we are on shaky ground. Life, time, possessions, family, nature, pension funds, nation, friends are all held in trust by us. They are all on loan from God to us. God graciously gives, but God does not let go of what God owns. Our God is, in the words of the Old Testament, a jealous God. This God is gracious, but at the same time, kind of possessive. And I've heard one person say that learning to acknowledge God's claim upon us is the beginning of wisdom. Well, in today's gospel lesson, which Sue read for us, a dispute breaks out over whether we should pay taxes to Caesar or not. It's curious because Jesus hasn't mentioned anything about the payment of taxes in all of his teachings. He's not even mentioned the government at all and has taken no position about the justice of the Romans occupying Judea, which a number of the Jewish people couldn't stand. And yet his critics come to him, seeking to entrap him in a debate about paying taxes to Caesar. Perhaps Jesus' critics sense that in Jesus and his teachings, sovereignty is under dispute, and their loyalties are being questioned. Jesus had a way of doing that, just by the way he talked and the way that he walked. Should we serve you or money? Should we walk behind you, or is there some other flag that leads to salvation? Today, should we pay taxes or not? So perhaps their question maybe ought to be rephrased. Should we worship Caesar or not? After all, that's what the coins proclaim. Quite literally, Caesar was a god. The tribute coin that Jesus held up that day literally read, "Caesar Augustus Tiberius, the son of the divine Augustus." As a matter of fact, in each major town in Judea, the Romans had placed statues to Caesar that not only proclaimed that Caesar was in power, controlling everything, but that Caesar ought to be revered, worshipped as supreme. And the Jews were terribly angered by this idolatry, as you can imagine. Now, some decided that, hey, let's try and go along with the Romans on this one, to get along. You know, what's a little pinch of incense offered to Caesar at the altar? Others resisted. When on one occasion the Romans tried to make a sacrifice to a pagan god at the altar in Jerusalem, the Jews, even though they lacked an army, launched a brave revolution. They were quickly crushed under the heel of Rome, but it demonstrated that the faith of Israel was in great part a question of worship. To whom do we owe our greatest allegiance? Let me put this debate in some context for you. Jesus' critics have been watching his every move. They have been criticizing his every move. Today they come with a killer question, a trick question. If Jesus answers, sure, pay the tax. Caesar is powerful and in charge of everything. Pay the tax. Well, then Jesus is in big trouble. He has thereby supported the pagan, Gentile, Roman occupation forces. He is acting as if Caesar has God-given authority, which would be impossible for Jesus. On the other hand, if Jesus answers, we're Jews, don't pay the tax. The money has Caesar's idolatrous image on it. Payment of that would make you an idolater. Well, if Jesus answers this way, how do you think the Romans would react? They wouldn't be very happy, and they would immediately be on Jesus' case. Interestingly, Jesus doesn't really answer the question about Caesar's coin. He asks another question. Who has a coin? Notice Jesus doesn't have any coins in his pocket. And it's given to him. And he says, whose image is on it? George Washington, we would reply, oh, wait, no, Caesar. Caesar. Then give it to him, says Jesus. But be careful. Don't give to Caesar what belongs to God. Did you notice that Jesus doesn't directly answer their question? Or even indirectly answer their question? And in the process, Jesus changes our question. Remember, this question about tax was our question, not Jesus'. We interrupted Jesus, and he replies to our question. When he replies to it, he asks, whose image is on the coin? And to me, this just has to be a reference to the book of Genesis in creation, where it is said, we are created in the image of God. So we have God's image stamped on us. The coin belongs to Caesar. You belong to God. See what Jesus has done here? He has taken our political question and made it a liturgical worship question. In whose image are you stamped? Who is the object of your highest devotion? Who owns you? You know, it's only natural that we should ask Jesus about politics. In some ways, politics is everything for us. Our protector, our main source of meaning, our only means of doing good. Just turn on the news, if you dare. What do you hear about? Politicians and politics and nonsense. Jesus appears to care less. He refuses to answer a political question and makes it a liturgical question. Whom do you worship? Jesus, Jew that he is, knows that whenever we discuss anything of great significance, deep down, it's a question of worship. Or to put a point on it, idolatry. Here we are with a coin with Caesar's idolatrous image on it, asking what we thought was a political strategy question, and Jesus makes it a question of worship. You know, I love the times throughout our history when we as a church have gotten this right. During such times, the followers of Jesus have often helped and sustained movements of social change, such as anti-slavery movements in England and the United States, the anti-colonial movements in the global South, the civil rights and freedom movements in the United States, in South Africa during apartheid, and around the world, work for human rights, peace movements, efforts to protect migrants, refugees, and to end human trafficking. As a matter of fact, many people of faith, including some I consider my heroes of faith, like Dietrich Bonhoeffer, William Wilberforce, Desmond Tutu, Bishop Peter Story, Martin Luther King Jr., and so on, have faced this question of who has ultimate authority in our lives and in the world, and over our actions, and found that in their time and place there was a conflict between who they felt had ultimate authority over them and others who thought differently. So they campaigned, they broke laws, were imprisoned, and even killed over the Caesar question, speaking truth to power. And you know what? I learned something new this past week. Martin Luther King Jr., we just celebrated his holiday a couple weeks ago. Did you know that during his lifetime, his final year of life, 75% of the people in the United States did not see him favorably or appreciate what he was doing? They thought he was wrong. That blew my mind, because that's not how we feel today. And it reminds me that answering this Caesar question, sometimes you're swimming upstream, and it takes courage in the moment to do it. Of course, sometimes things aren't all that dramatic. I love the story that I just recently read about FDR from early 1944, when we were still in the midst of World War II. Every year, Roosevelt attended a special service at St. John's Episcopal Church to commemorate his first inauguration. The Reverend Howard Johnson, I don't think he owned hotels, but the Reverend Howard Johnson was put in charge of the liturgy that year. The priest decided to include a controversial prayer entitled Prayer for Our Enemies. Now, the other clergy at his church scoffed at the suggestion. They argued, the White House will never authorize this in wartime. It would be misunderstood throughout the country. The publicity would be terrible, since the Christian injunction to pray for our enemies was scarcely understood, even by Christians in this country. Well, when Roosevelt read over the proposed service, he did scribble a note next to that prayer. He put, very good. I like it. Gathering in the church at 10:30 in the morning on Saturday, March 4th, 1944, the President of the United States, his cabinet, and the senior officials of a nation at war lowered their heads as these words were said. Most loving Father, who by the Son, Jesus Christ, has taught us to love our enemies and to pray for them, we beseech thee, give to those who are now our enemies the light of the Holy Spirit. Grant that they and we, being enlightened in conscience and cleansed from every sin, may know and do thy will, and so be changed from foes to friends, united in thy service, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Father Johnson struggled with the Caesar question, and so did FDR, and it made an impact. I wonder, How do you think we today as Christians are doing with the Caesar question?